Poor Theresa. At 4 years old, her mother died. And that led to all sorts of difficulties in her health and in her behavior. What child wouldn't be totally thrown when the person who brought them into the world, carried them in the womb, died? And so it was rather a very hard time for her father and for her 4 sisters, and some of whom were already in the convent. We know that a connection between a mother and child is so precious and so important. So to have, it's like losing a limb. She did go through a very dark period, but she did come out of it. She became determined. She was no pushover, this little flower of ours. She knew what she wanted. She knew what God was calling her to be. I'm sure you've heard the story over the years of how at 15 she went to Rome and she actually asked the Pope, why can't I join the Carmel? Why can't I go into the monastery? And it's because she was considered too young at 15. But she did go in. So she knew what she wanted. She discovered something in that sadness and sorrow of her childhood, a faith so deep and something quite beautiful. Well, I decided to turn to an Irishman who talks about beauty. This is what John O'Donoghue says, and he too died too young. I love the word essence. It has mystery, heart, and luminosity. It reminds me of the way a cloud can open over a dark Connemara lake and turn it into a shimmering mirror of silver. For a few moments, the lake is illuminated. The essence of a thing is always elusive and hidden. The dream of art and prayer is to come nearer, even to slip through, to dwell for a while in the vicinity of the essence. Daily life is blurred. We live between endless layers of darkening and occasional brightening veils. But for the most part, we remain outside the walls of what Kant affectionately called the thing in itself. So what was the thing in itself that Theresa discovered and that altered her life completely and transformed her sufferings when she committed herself to God and to die with a horrible death of TB? She discovered the thing in itself. And O'Donoghue says, we manage merely to live in a neighborhood of things. Their essence remains beyond our reach. The essence of a person is even more elusive. The medieval mind used the word ineffable to suggest the essence of individuality. Your essence is the utter isness, the utter you-ness of you. It's an Irishman speaking, trying to describe that which is so difficult to describe. So she went from this terrible child, to be open totally and utterly to what it was that God wanted of her. So I think, taking John O'Donoghue's word, she did see something bigger for a moment. And I'm sure there have been times in our lives, and particularly when we're in a dark place, when we have a glimpse of something that keeps us going. Something that keeps us going. And that something is the revelation of God who can't be explained. Who can't be explained. And if it could, it's not God. He gives an example, John O'Donoghue. He says, a lovely friend in London, an eminent philosopher and psychotherapist, told me once that when his second child was born, he was granted for one moment a glimpse of the child's essence. Often during his child's life, there have been such moments. And even now in the dark lands of adolescence, where conversation is scarce and where monologue frequently dims into single syllable, glowering, the father is still given the occasional clear view. Through the blurred, awkward surface, the beautiful radiance of his son's soul becomes briefly visible. The view always recalls him to a sense of the hidden eternal light of his child's life. Well, I'm not a parent, but I've met enough children, and I've met enough parents, many parents, and I'm sure that's true. There are times when something touches our heart, our mind, our soul, that even when what's going on around us seems so crazy and unexplainable, that we know there's something. And Theresa knew what that something was. And she gave her life. She gave her life, her young life, the youngest of her 4 sisters, to follow them into the convent. And one of her favorite expressions is, all is grace. Everything is gift. Everything is gift. And she lived that, even in, and especially in her suffering, because having TB, tuberculosis, back well over 150 years ago, was a horrible way to die. But she managed to offer her sufferings, all the little she was able to do in terms of usefulness. There wasn't much use to her then, but there was, because she held on to that ineffable sense of God. She knew her God was close, and she wanted, she said, to spend her heaven on earth doing good. And she's continued to do that. Do you amount of people, a parishioner from Sugarland came in today, my name is Theresa. So she came here for the feast. There was a lovely Filipino woman who used to send her children to our school. They've graduated. And she was from the Philippines and loved to tell me her church was St. Therese, the little flower. So this 24-year-old girl whose life was very short, was very rich, and her influence continues throughout the world. So she recovered as we can recover. As we can hold on to the transcendent, as we can hold on to that which is important, when we do sense the otherness that is beyond words. And so I'm happy that you're here today. I'm happy that you all sing so beautifully. And I've never been in a parish where people sing so well. And I saw one man looking back. I think it was the trumpet that attracted you this morning. Am I right? So let's have it for the trumpeter to help us praise God. And not forgetting all our ministers of music and ministers of violin. It's wonderful to be here. Please, when Deacon Dwight says go in peace, he means go to the fellowship hall. Please like, subscribe, or comment below.